Good day, everyone. My name is Brian Lewis. I am a JTNS instructor, and I'm here today to talk to you about meter safety, pest, traffic, and leaks. Now, whether you actually go check meters or you're going to pull a meter, there's a good chance that you're going to deal with a lot of these hazards. So whether you're actually a meter reader or not, these things are going to pertain to you. So to get started, what we usually do here at JTNS is ask if anyone has had any near misses or accidents. So if you've had any near misses or accidents, go ahead and pause the video right now. Take about 10 minutes and discuss these things among you. Make sure that if you've had near misses, that you figure out how to correct those things so accidents do not happen. If you've got accidents, figure out what happened. Make sure the accidents do not repeat themselves. This is the way we need to handle safety and health and improve our culture. Make safety a priority. This is how we keep each other safe. So hopefully you've had a discussion about any near misses or accidents, and now it is time to get going on our presentation for this month. As I've said before, this month we're going to talk about meter safety, pest, traffic, and leaks. So the pest part comes in as we approach the summer months and get into the summer. We're going to find all kinds of things that cause us problems. Traffic, we're always working near the road or on the road and exposed to traffic. So we need to make ourselves visible so that we do not get hit, that people are looking out for us. We make it easy for them to see us. And of course, leaks, whether you're dealing with water or gas, they present certain hazards we need to address. So keep that in mind. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now this gentleman, Peter Drucker, is a writer, and he writes about how organizations are successful. So we're going to talk about this a little bit in this presentation, where we talk about culture, safety culture, and we talk about strategy, policies, and planning. It's important. It's important because sometimes you can't plan for everything, and that's when your organization's culture takes over. So keep that in mind. We really need both, though. We need both policies or strategies as well as culture. If you've had any of our previous videos, you know we talk a lot about safety culture and a lot about how our culture defines us, how it makes us make the decisions we make, and how it controls our actions. So, culture is important. It should be something that you can see in the policies and the strategies that you have there at your utility. Policies and strategies are usually for problems or hazards that are well defined and things that we know are probably going to happen sometime or another, and how we approach them and how we handle them. Culture, not only does it help us understand what we need to be doing out there, but when something happens that's we didn't plan for, couldn't have planned for, culture takes over, and culture will keep us safe and make the utility look pretty good too. Which is important. Policy is the blueprint or the strategy that you use, like I said, for your known hazards, the things we have to deal with on a daily basis. Keep that in mind, as I've already said. And culture is a custom or tradition of doing things, putting safety first, always looking out for each other, making sure you have each other's back. This is what we mean when we talk about culture and safety culture in particular. Doing things the right way, doing things the correct way, making sure people do not have to come behind us and redo what we have done, those sort of things. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the pests we're going to have to deal with as we move into the summer months, and some of the things that you all have to deal with when you're dealing with meters, because a lot of these pests, they just love meters. They love meter boxes. They love any kind of box that doesn't have human interaction very often, because they can go out there and make their nest and hang out. So, what potential pest did you encounter last year or the previous years? What are some that you have encountered so far this year? These things are important. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause them and talk about them. It's not a big deal to go ahead and pause the video when you need to have a discussion. We'd rather you do that and have a good discussion, because we all learn from each other a lot better than you learn from watching a video. So keep that in mind. So, what culture do you display when you're out in the field, and what policy or policies does your utility have when you're dealing with pests? I've been told that a lot of places have policies on dogs, how you handle those dogs, if it's a particularly aggravating breed of dog that's aggressive, how are you going to handle that? If it's not an aggressive breed, do you help the homeowner out if one gets out of the fence? So this is about culture, and it's about taking care of yourself, and when you can, providing good customer service. So keep those things in mind. You need to do what you need to do to protect yourself. Always protect yourself first, right? So, wasp, hornets, bees, oh my goodness, these are a pest of summer. I deal with them where I live on a daily basis. When the summer months get here, I try to control them the best I can. I know that when you all go and you're looking at meters, or you're going to pull a meter or check a meter, you're going to be dealing with honeybees, you're going to be dealing with wasps, there's going to be hornets out there. Make sure you pay attention to what's going on there and protect yourself from these pests. Be aware, they're out in force right now. Snakes. Well, snakes like these dark places without a lot of human interaction, like we've talked about before. Please be aware, some people have just a real big fear of snakes, and if you're one of these people, I understand it. But don't go killing black snakes or king black snakes just for the heck of it. Those snakes do us a lot of favors. They control rodents, and they control poisonous snakes. So if you find a black snake, a king black snake, do your best to relocate that thing and not kill it, because it actually helps us out quite a bit. Now, you find some kind of poisonous snake, well, I would encourage you not to mess with that thing. That could be a quick trip to the emergency room for some anti-venom. So we don't want to mess with poisonous snakes, and do what you can to protect yourselves. Like I said, pay attention to what's going on. Always be aware, be on alert when you're lifting a cover or you're opening up a box, and make sure that you're paying attention. All right, spiders. A lot of times when we see these things, well, we don't see them. What we really run into is we find a place where we've been bit. Some of these spiders, black widows, brown recluse, can be particularly poisonous. And usually you find a little red, irritated, hard spot, and when it goes away, then you'll find there's a little divot in you. And this is what happens. But we need to pay attention to these things. They're not to be taken lightly. Just like hornets, wasps, and bees, you can have a severe allergic reaction to spider bites. Anything in nature can give you an allergic reaction if you've already had previous interactions with them, and your immune system just develops a reaction. So keep that in mind. There again, bees, we want to be careful with honeybees in particular. Those things are integral to life on this planet, and they've been disappearing a little bit on us. So we want to be careful. We don't want to kill those things. If you can relocate them, call somebody that can relocate them. But like I said, handle them with kid gloves. Even though they're a pest to us, they do perform a real vital part of our ecosystem. So keep that in mind. Now, when we talk about traffic, a lot of times we deal with people who cannot see us or refuse to see us when we're out exposed to traffic. However, we want to concentrate right on this slide and maybe the next one on the people that do pay attention and can see us. And for those people, visibility is important. Wearing a yellow, strong yellow-green, orange vest or a vest that's got fluorescent versions of those colors, along with reflective stripes on them, are important. Now, the picture you see up here is a Class 2 vest. It's one that you would wear during the daylight. If you're going to be working at dusk or at night, you want a Class 3 vest. Now, those vests have sleeves in them, and they have extra reflective material. You may even wear reflective pants. This is important at night so that people can see you. What you're doing is you're expanding the area that provides contrast at night. That's what makes Class 3 important. During the day, Class 2 is important for the same reason. You want to provide contrast. It's because of that contrast you want to keep your vest clean. Make sure it provides contrast with the clothes that you're wearing and the area around you. It's really important that people who are looking out notice you, that you stand out from the background. Going along with this, trucks and vehicles ought to be clean as well. If we keep those clean, they stand out from among the background and the other cars in the area, and people tend to notice them better. It's personal. It's personal. It's your personal protective equipment, and you need to take care of it just like you would take care of any other personal protective equipment. Maintain it. Maintain it, and it'll take good care of you. Some other things you need to worry about besides keeping the vehicle clean is that you have the appropriate lights on it. So you need amber lights, whether they're rotating and flashing, or whether they're of the kind that you see that are strobe type. Either one is fine. You want those things visible and flashing or rotating on your trucks so that people can see those and catch their eyes. It's all about catching their eyes and providing contrast. Now, very rarely do you use cones or signs if you're reading meters, but on occasionally if you need to pull a meter or there's something going on that's going to take you a little while, you want to put your cones out, you want to put some signs out. If you need to use arrow boards, make sure they're in the caution mode. Make sure that people understand which direction they're supposed to go. Make sure that you use every tool you can. Even if you need to call the police and have them come out and help you with traffic control, that's really important. People don't react well when they get hit by vehicles. Even being hit at a slow speed of 15 or 20 miles an hour can really mess a person up. So make sure you're wearing your vest. Make sure your vests are clean. Make sure your trucks are clean. Make sure your lights are flashing. If you need to use cones and signs, then use your cones and signs if you're going to be there a while. If you're moving, make sure you've got an arrow board that moves with you in a caution mode. And if you need to take up more than one lane, make sure one of the caution boards has an arrow showing which way that traffic needs to go. Set this up right and do the best you can to take care of yourself. The last thing I need to tell you about, which I really don't need to tell you about, because if you've ever been exposed to traffic, you understand how people are. Your head needs to be on a swivel. Up until now, we've talked about people that are paying attention. People that will recognize people wearing high visibility vests or trucks with amber lights rotating or flashing. But there's a group of people that, whether they're beating the kids in the back seat, playing with the radio, or daydreaming, they just don't see, or they're not paying attention, or their mind is engaged in something else. So you need to be looking out for these people, because they're not looking out for you. You need to always have a plan, if you can, about where you're going to go if somebody runs through your work zone while you're reading meters or doing something else like correcting leaks. It doesn't matter. You need to watch out for these people. Now we're going to talk about water leaks. We're going to talk about gas leaks a little bit here. And these create particular hazards. And we're going to talk about each one of them a little bit. As I've already said a couple of times, if you need to pause the video to talk about any kind of policy or procedure your utility has in dealing with these water or gas leaks, by all means do that. Discuss the things you need to talk about. make sure you're on the same page and no one gets hurt. That's how you reinforce policy and procedures, and that's how you establish culture. And those are underlying factors in all the things we do to try and keep people safe. So when we talk about water leaks, typically we're talking about trenching and excavation hazards, collapse hazards, things like that. So you want to have the competent person and all the other people there be looking for cracks in the surfaces that can be indication that a collapse is imminent. You want to make sure you pay attention particularly to how you slope the ground back. If it's a class type C soil, you want to slope it back around 34 degrees. If you're in a situation where you can't slope and you need to use a trench box, make sure you put the trench box into the hole correctly. Make sure you use backfill so that the trench box won't rock back and forth if there's a partial collapse and hurt someone's foot, maybe even break a foot or a leg. Don't want to do that. Make sure you have access to a ladder every 25 feet or within 25 feet. Keep those things in mind and pay attention. I know it's real easy when you're dealing with trenching and excavation type situations to say, this will only take 5-10 minutes. I'm going to jump in there and I'm going to do it real quick and then I'm going to get out. And nobody will be the wiser. I know that's awful tempting. I'm asking you not to do it. I'm asking you to take every precaution you can, whether it's going to take 5 minutes or 2 hours or 3 hours. You're talking about your life or someone else's life. So be aware of that and take safety seriously and establish that good safety culture, even when no one's looking. So some myths about smart meters. Now, you might run into this when we talk about irate customers or irate ratepayers. There's a group of people out there that think that smart meters cause cancer. They think that the electromagnetic fields cause some kind of depression or physical ailments. Or they may just think that the meter is not being fair to them when it counts how much water they're using. Either way, you're dealing with people that have irritability, and people that are irritable and mad this day and age are a safety hazard. So watch out for those people. Make sure that you don't patronize them. Listen to them. If anybody uses the threat of violence, then get yourself out of there. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Keep that in mind. So talking about irate customers, never put yourself at risk. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. Make sure that you do your best to avoid those situations. If you have to go back out, say you're pulling a meter or something like that, look into taking police with you or sheriff deputy with you. Let somebody that's in law enforcement handle someone who's overly aggressive and threatens your life. It's just not worth taking a chance at. All right. I know a lot of times we as men have we tend to want to be aggressive back when someone challenges us. So I'm going to encourage you not to do that. Workplace violence, this goes right along with irate customers. Somebody produces a gun, somebody produces a knife. It's time to leave. It's just that simple. I say gun or knife because that's what comes to my mind most immediately, but people can use a lot of different things as a weapon. Use a ball bat, they can use a piece of pipe, anything they can pick up in a lot of cases. I'm going to encourage you not to let anybody with more than an arm's length to your body. So keep everybody more than an arm's length from your body. That is going to help you protect yourself. If anybody starts violating that little personal bubble within an arm's length, then you need to back up and start moving away. Ask them to step back. Do that in a non-aggressive manner. Just ask them to back up and give you a little space. And And if that doesn't work, there again, follow your company's policies and procedures, but it may be the time to leave. May be the time to leave at that point. Now, when we talk about gas leaks, we're going to have to talk a little bit about natural gas and some of its properties. So if you go look at a safety data sheet on natural gas and you look at some of the hazards, of course, it's going to be flammable. It's going to be potentially explosive. Some of the things that we don't always talk about with natural gas, though, is that it's lighter than air, and it can be what's called an asphyxiant. So besides blowing up, causing a fire, something very tragic like that, it can also gather in a room or a permit-required confined space at or near the ceiling. So keep that in mind. When you're dealing with natural gas, it is going to tend to float above an air pocket. So keep that in mind. And if it's high enough, it's going to make you dizzy, and it's going to make it really difficult or impossible for you to breathe, and you may not get blown up. What may happen is that you pass out, and that's not a good thing either, because we need oxygen to survive, right? So keep that in mind. Some other things you might want to consider is the lower explosive limit and the upper explosive limit. So in between those two limits, when there's enough oxygen and enough fuel or natural gas in this instance that we're talking about, when it's there in the right concentrations, it's ripe for an explosion and ripe for a fire. On either side of the lower explosive limit or the upper explosive limit, there's either not enough gas to create a fire and explosion, or there's not enough oxygen for a fire or explosion. So keep that in mind. So you always want to look out for signs of a possible gas leak. You want to use your senses. You want to make sure you pay attention to everything that's going on around you and anything that can hint that there's a gas leak. So you want to listen for any unusual noises. If you hear any kind of hissing, anything that would give you a clue that natural gas is leaking. Now keep in mind that most residential systems are at low pressure, so you may not hear noise, but the pipes that deliver natural gas to the systems are at a higher pressure, and those could create a noise as if you're going to be around those. So it's not in every case that you hear a noise, but you could. So make sure you listen. There's a smell. That smell is provided by methyl mercaptan, and methyl mercaptan smells like rotten eggs or sulfur. It's really, really strong. It's hard to ignore. So you really don't smell natural gas, but what you really smell is the methyl mercaptan that they put into the natural gas that gives it that distinctive odor. And that's the reason they use methyl mercaptan. It takes very little methyl mercaptan to create that strong odor and give you a really good warning property as to what and you're dealing with and where it's located. So keep that in mind. So caution is required when you're doing sewer work because a lot of times, along with other buried utilities, there's going to be natural gas lines there. So if you're going to be working on sewer, make sure you pay particular attention to what utilities are buried there. Use caution. Unfortunately, you may not be able to use a backhoe or track hoe to dig to where you need to go. You may have to do a little hand digging. Make sure you don't hit anything that's sensitive down there, like a gas pipe. I know from talking to a lot of utilities that a lot of these communication companies, when they come in, they will go ahead and they're in such a hurry to get their fiber optics and everything down that they'll nick a line or breach a line, or water or gas, and they'll wait till their job's finished. Then they'll give the utility a call and say, hey, you know what, we have tore up your line and caused you extra work to get out there and create hazards for you and hazards for them in getting their work done. So be careful with that kind of thing. And there's always cowboys out there that you have to look out for, unfortunately. So take this seriously and watch out, talk with each other. If somebody's going to be out there doing work and there's going to be near your utilities, maybe it's a good thing for somebody to stop by and say hi to them once in a while. Make sure they're being watched. I don't know. That's a policy and procedure for each of your utilities to decide on how to handle that sort of thing. Signs of damaged lines or to natural gas line include, but are not limited to, the following, because there's all kinds of signs. I'm sure I don't know them all. You all probably have a greater knowledge of the signs you need to look out for. But we've already talked about the hissing sounds. We've talked about high pressure and low pressure lines, so you might hear a hissing sound, you might not. Need to know what system you're working on, right? Need to know what system you're working on, or near is maybe a better way for me to say that. Natural gas odor, we've talked about methyl mercaptan, how it gives that real strong rotten egg or sulfur smell, and gives a great warning property. So make sure if you happen to be clogged up because of allergies here in the spring and the summer like I get to be, make sure somebody on your crew isn't. Make sure they can smell that bad odor also. So keep that in mind. Make sure you pay attention to the signs that tell you that something odd is going on. Some other things that might happen is it might blow a little dirt. So be looking for that. And if it's a wet location, it may actually bubble some water. I cannot be the only person whose dad taught him how to take water with a little soap and spray it on a tire and try and find a leak where maybe you've run over a nail or a staple or something in the road, and figure out where you need to plug the tire. It's the same principle, except now it's probably coming from the ground. So keep that in mind. Especially in wet conditions, look for that. Meter safety. We've talked about a lot of things, not in great depth, but we've talked about a lot of things, and we probably need to make sure that we're vigilant about this stuff. I appreciate you all, and appreciate that you all have paid attention, hopefully paid attention, and that you will make safety a high priority, and make sure that you improve your safety culture every chance you get. So if you have any questions, I encourage you to talk amongst yourselves, talk to your safety director, talk to your safety manager, or the person that is in charge of safety at your utility. Of course, I'm here at JTNS. You're welcome to make any kind of contact with me or anyone else from JTNS, and we're more than happy to help you with anything that we can help you with. Even if we need to do a little research, that's all right with us. I appreciate you all. Have a great day and stay safe. Thank you.